name is Erwin, Romulo. I'm the curator of this exhibition, Bakit, but I'm also going to moderate the panel, so this is part 2. Thank you for coming back. So, without further ado, basically we're going to talk about how this exhibit came together, how Silke Lapina, the artist of this exhibit, collaborated with 2 collaborators from the Philippines. And without further ado, I would like to introduce Reverend Joseph San Jose, pastor at Open Table MCC, queer-affirming church in Manila. He's also the vice chairperson of the governing board of the Metropolitan Community Churches, global leadership, and local pastor of Open Table MCC in Green Hills, San Juan. He's an expert in Feminist-Queer and Liberation Theology, Intersectionality, and queer history. He finished the Master of Divinity Summa Cum Laude from Union Theological Seminary, Philippines. Father Joseph. Our second panelist is Carl Lorenz Cervantes. He's a psychologist, researcher, university lecturer whose main interests are spirituality and Filipino psychology. His papers on transpersonal indigenous psychology have been published in various magazines and academic journals. He is the author of a short book of essays called Deep Roots, Essay on Psychic and Spiritual in Philippine Culture. He also makes zines which have been sold in art fairs and outside the gallery, you can see them, and distributed around the world. His online presence, Siko Diwa, is a creative extension of his academic work. Carl currently teaches in the University of the Philippines in Diliman, Quezon City. Carl. And of course, we have Silke Lapina. Her art fuses, she's a German-Filipino visual arts based from Berlin and Manila. Her art fuses religious symbolism with the bold aesthetics of an MTV-era pop culture, reflecting on spirituality in a secular world. Influenced by her Filipino Catholic and Masonic upbringing, she creates multimedia works, gilded canvases, engraved mirrors, and immersive installations rooted in meditation and monastic experiences. She has a background in culture and social anthropology from the University of Vienna and religion and culture from the Humboldt University in Berlin. Silke Lapina. So I guess I just want to ask, what's your reaction, Father Joseph, when you first got connected to Silke? I think you've only met today in person for the first time? No, okay.
When I received an email?
Yes, from...
Who's this German white person? Wanting to, reaching out for us. No? Nag-reach out for this. Of course, I was skeptical at first because of what happened, Pura and everything that's happened with Pura. So at first I was skeptical.
Yes.
But eventually, Silke came to our church. We had a talk. But then I was still skeptical. So I thought, what do you really plan? Because there's this ongoing case right now and all that. So initially, but we worked it out.
Well, what did you ask? What did you email? Or did you email? How did you reach out to Father Joseph?
So that was actually before I booked my flights to the Philippines. That was last autumn. And I thought I already reached out to them because since 2021, I've been collaborating as an artist with queer-affirming religious communities, like in Berlin and in Germany in general. And I had the idea of actually getting a baptism renewal, but I wasn't sure if I want to do that publicly. So I messaged the church that I want to collaborate with them creatively, and I also want to do a baptism, but I'm not sure if we're just going to do that in an intimate setting or publicly or so.
Then you also reached out to Carl Cervantes. Could you tell me more about what affected you about Carl's work?
So I grew up in Germany, and so in the Filipino diaspora, and I've seen a lot of Filipinos from the diaspora actually sharing Carl's content, and then it was so beautiful because through his education online, you can reconnect to your Filipino roots in a very easy way, in a beautiful way. And then I studied more his work, and I also found out that you're researching about spirituality in general, also different kinds of spiritual experiences, and that was also my master thesis. So I actually wrote my master thesis on meditation researches, and I thought, yeah, let's get into a conversation. So I reached out to him, and he said, yeah, let's do this. Yeah.
And then, Carl, I mean, we were talking beforehand that a lot of the Filipino diaspora they were the first to really follow you online in Siko Diwa. What do you attribute that to? And what particular post or subject do you think has resonated with the diaspora?
I think what I find really interesting I think this is connected also to the recent pandemic. Because when people were locked down, people started to think about what's important to them. Especially when we're surrounded by so much anxiety, parang naisip nila, ano ba yung mahalaga sa akin? And they think of family, heritage, representation in media and politics. And all of these things seems to be something global, something very recognizable across, not just in the Philippines, but across the world. And I see a lot of returning to indigeneity, returning to your roots, and recovering these things that we feel like we've lost, not just across time, but also through globalization, through the internet, because a lot of it is Western media, a lot of it is really just, we know more about stuff abroad than we know about stuff here. So it's kind of weird. And a lot of people recognize the importance of going back to their roots, as Silke has done.
But I wanted to ask, for those of us who don't really know, you espouse Filipino psychology. Could you explain a bit more about that?
Right. I see my work more about looking at human consciousness through the lens of culture. So it's not that I'm telling people, oh, this is what Filipino culture is, ito yung pagka-Pilipino. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I happen to be Filipino, and this happens to be the way that I understand things. But we're all human naman, across different places, across different cultures. So how I see it is human consciousness, being human, shared humanity, and we just happen to have the words for it, like kapwa, Ilocano, nakem. These words are very unique and special to us, but that doesn't mean na tayo lang yung merong ganun. So that's maybe why also a lot of people resonate with that kind of thing.
And Father Joseph, I mean, could you also, I'd like to know more. I have to admit, when Silke told me about to curate this exhibit, she told me about the MCC Open Table, and I'm embarrassed to say I had no idea about. Could you explain a bit of the history of the church?
So, Metropolitan Community Churches, or popularly known as, well, not popularly, MCC, started in Los Angeles, 1968, 8 months before Stonewall happened. And it started by a gay Pentecostal pastor. Before he came out, he had a wife, he was a pastor, he was pastoring a church in the southern areas of the US. But the church found out that he was gay. So he lost his job as a pastor, he broke up with his wife, and for a time he did not bother with religion. He said, God, I'm done with you, I won't bother you, don't bother me.
Yes.
And so he just did his job, he found a secular job. And then one time, nearing the 1968 founding of the church, he lost his partner. They broke up. And he was so depressed at that time that he attempted suicide. Trigger warning, sorry. He attempted to suicide, and he survived, but in the hospital, he said that he heard the inner voice telling him, Troy, you are my beloved child. You're my beloved son. I don't have any stepsons and daughters. So he had that epiphany. And then the following day, he also had an epiphany saying, if God loves me as I am, then perhaps God loves other gay people. And so he is a trained minister, a pastor, and he started the church. open for all, but with a specific ministry and advocacy for LGBT people.
Okay.
At the time that there's no acronym yet. You know, there's no L. It's just gay and...
Yeah. But in the Philippines, it started around 1991, am I correct?
Yes. So MCC started here in 1991 by Father Richard Mickley, a former Catholic priest, who became an MCC pastor. And he, according to him, I don't know how, he was able to intercept a letter, a snail mail, requesting for an MCC to be established in the Philippines. And so he was pastoring in New Zealand. He came to the Philippines in 1991. No internet yet, so it was actually meeting people, you know, randomly asking someone in the bus, "Oh, come to church." And so he established it. And the first ever worship was in the National Cathedral of Aglipay in Taft, in IFI. So that was in 1991. Then he went to the US to ask for permission if it be possible. And then he came back here to establish MCC Manila. And very iconic, he passed away in 2023 on February 14th. So he declared love for queer people, that the love of queer people are equally holy. And he died February 14th. So yeah, that's how it started.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for that. I mean, Silke, you did study religion and culture, and this exhibit, as we've been talking about, has been influenced by 13th and 14th century mystics, religious figures, German theologians like Meister Eckhart, members of the Beguines, Marguerite Porete. I guess I'd like to know more about these figures and how they influenced this exhibit.
So I was studying in my master's degree religion and culture at Humboldt University at the theological faculty, but I did not study theology. So it was kind of a really interesting mix of people that were studying this master degree together with me, because they would come either from culture, anthropology or political studies, but interested in religion and culture. So I met, I joined one seminar with the title Being as God, and my professor, he taught us about Meister Eckhart and his teachings from the 14th century in Germany, and I fell in love with it. So basically what Meister Eckhart was preaching back then was find God in everything, which seems to be a very simple teaching, but it's not. Like, of course, it's there's much more behind that, but basically that's it. So that's actually the base of my work. So if I'm an artist, so I thought, okay, how can I, how is it in my artwork that I can find, God in everything? So it would be for me also pop songs. Like, so the most banal thing you would think, like, I mean, this whole exhibition is based on Bakit, like a pop song from the 90s, but it holds such a deep spiritual meaning to me. So it became the base of this exhibition. But also, so we would learn about Meister Eckhart, but what our professor would also tell us at the end of the seminar, he said, Meister Eckhart has actually, there's a research gap. So he has been to the Beguines. A lot of times he visited, let's say, like a monastery of everyday women that would just look for spiritual life, but they wouldn't have any, they did not study dogmatically the Bible or whatsoever. They would just look for a spiritual life. And there are records of him visiting these women monasteries several times, and there is this research gap that he might actually borrowed these teachings from women. So it hasn't been explored that much yet. So yeah.
This is the way you're actually trying to highlight that gap.
Yeah, so this exhibition is so also informed by some certain beginnings where we still have writings of them, for example, Margaret Porret, but also Mechthild von Magdeburg, and yeah.
We can provide you bibliography after. Carl, I mean, so Meister Eckhart and Marguerite Porret, they were saying God is in everything, God is all around, also a direct experience with God. In Filipino psychology, because you've gone and you've said the same thing, that we should look at our experiences, even with the supernatural, and see what this means. Is there many resonances between those teachings and what we find here?
Actually reminds me of animism. So yung animism is really just finding the spirit in everything. That non-human life is also valuable. And we see this if we look in Western philosophy, it's also the deep ecology movement, which is more nature-based, more towards caring for creatures that are not just human. So the idea is humans are not the most important, but are part of a larger system that we share. And we see this also very much in our animist practices, which today survive through folk beliefs as simple as tabi-tabi po, bari-bari apo. These kinds of beliefs na nagpapaalam pa rin tayo habang dumadaan tayo sa mga gubat, these are still these animist beliefs that we know that there are spirits around us. Yes. We feel, we sense, we experience. I don't know if you've also had this experience, papasok ka sa isang lugar, you feel suddenly parang bigat ng pakiramdam. Yes. Suddenly there's that sense of, there's something here, I just don't know what it is. Yeah. It's this vibe, which in psychology, because for my graduate studies, I studied telepathy in psychotherapy. And the research that I found with psychotherapists who experience this in the caring setting, it's the same vibe, energy-based feeling, which, and we move on to folk religion, it's more of that mystical experience also. There's also that mystical experience in Western tradition, but in our experience, ito yung mga babaylan, katalonan, which part of the ritual is an altered state of consciousness, of connecting with that divine.
Tatarin. Is it the same tatarin? No basic ecstatic dancing?
I'm not sure if, I'm not very familiar with this, but it's really it's so common actually sa atin na pumasok sa mga altered states that we're going to have an exorcism center. Diba? They're going to build an exorcism center in, I think sa Makati. Wow. First in Asia daw. That's because that experience, culturally speaking, is so important to us that we're so connected with spiritual aspects.
Is it mostly women, though?
Yung alin, sorry.
That experience these things?
A lot of our historical research, we see that there were women practitioners. Okay. And across time, we believe na yung mga babaylan were mostly women. Okay. A lot of them, there wasn't really very much of a very strict, o dapat kayo lang yung nagpa-practice, dapat ganito. We also see male practitioners. We see male practitioners who also wear women's clothing. These are also part of the documentation. So it's very much a fluid practice. Na anyone, as long as they have that connection or calling from the divine, can participate in the mystical experience.
Thank you. Father Joseph, I mean, I know I've friends who've actually gone to your church, and they do say that it's very fun, it's very solemn, but like when they receive communion, it'd be to Regine Velasquez. Also, I think you've said that you can find how God might speak through Madonna or Lady Gaga. So I mean that connects to what Silke is trying to do with. Could you explain more of that? Why do you allow that in your church apart from it's very fun?
It's same, very same. I don't know if call it doctrine or theology. God is in everything. God continues to speak to us today.
This is your Now Testament.
The Now Testament, and God has not stopped speaking. The Holy Spirit has not stopped revealing herself after the Bible was compiled. So although for us and some other progressive Christians, it's just a little bit more radical in terms of we believe that the Holy Spirit speaks through the song of Lady Gaga, Adele, Wicked, Jessa Zaragoza, Regine Velasquez. So, some of the new people who come to our church are both confused and touched by it.
Yes.
When they hear during communion, sometimes we use, it's a favorite of ours, you call this Adele, to love you, something? Adele, to make me love you, or to make you feel my love, yeah. So, I'm the weird gay, I'm not a pop culture gay. So, that's a common song we use during communion, during the Eucharist. So people get both touched and confused because it's a solemn communion.
Yes.
But sometimes Regine, sometimes Adele.
Yeah. And you don't think that's incongruous with the solemnity of what we're trying to espouse?
No.
Okay.
Come and experience it.
Oh. No, because today we've experienced the baptism, and it is you took pains in saying that it shouldn't be a spectacle. No, it shouldn't be. How do we ensure that though? Because some people might still say that.
Well, of course, people are free to interpret as they want it, but from the one who's requesting it and from the one who's officiating the ritual, we have to be clear why we are doing it. Any form of it, maybe Prof can affirm this. Any form of ritual is performative. No, it is performative.
Okay.
It is a presentation. But there's a clear line between, at least in my limited knowledge, in the Christian tradition, there's a difference between being performative and being a performance.
Okay.
Performative is because you do this, the stage and all that. But the intention is not to entertain. Then the intention is not even to appeal to emotions. Rituals in the Christian tradition has a theology, and the object of the ritual is always God. It's not the people. It benefits the people, but the object of the ritual, the source and the object is always the sacred, the divine.
This went through a process, right? Of you requesting for his baptism. Could you talk a bit more about that?
As I said before, I requested that without being sure if I want to do it publicly. Because it's such an intimate moment and it's also connected to my family history. So, as Father Joseph also told us before, I've been already baptized Roman Catholic in the Philippines. My mother and my dad, they were kind of arguing about it because my dad was a Freemason, German, and he said, I don't want my child to be baptized unconsciously. She should choose her belief whenever she's conscious about it, so when I'm 18 or something like that. So eventually he passed away when I was very young. And so back then my mom, she said, well, she's Filipino Catholic, I'm gonna baptize my child, I don't care. So she took me to the Philippines on holidays and baptized me secretly. So my dad wasn't really amused about that. And that's many years ago. And I thought it would be, like, it would really be my personal decision to really choose Christianity, but only in the way that I can really believe in the theologies a certain church would pray. So
I just want to point out that your ninang from your Catholic
yeah.
baptism is here.
Yeah, so my
She's here
ninang
also.
from my baptism back then is here. Yeah. Ninang Tess. Love you. Yeah.
Before I open up the floor to questions from our distinguished guests, maybe I'd like to just ask everyone here, do you have a spiritual practice daily that you do? And I'd just like to ask what that is.
hard.
Father?
No, I don't have. Daily, it's the thing about it, spiritual practice, especially if if you read the mystics or the church fathers, it's really not that complicated. Father Richard Rohr, who's Western, Franciscan, and a modern mystic, says it this way: it is so simple that most people will not get it. Because it is simply sitting and putting yourself in the present moment. Simply, and at least in the Christian tradition, it's putting yourself in the present moment, knowing that God is in that present moment. So, maybe my practice is similar to now the Cardinal Ambo David, the Roman Catholic Church. Bishop Ambo has what he calls coffee with Jesus in the morning. So before knowing that with Bishop Ambo, I am actually doing that in the morning. So just sitting and having coffee, not looking at social media, not doing anything. And looking out, so our table is, the dining table is here, and then the door. And the sun in the morning comes to our door. So simply sitting there, appreciating the morning sunlight for about 30 minutes. So that's my daily prayer practice. And another one I do, so I was raised Catholic, but again, I'm in MCC now. The best time for me to actually pray is traveling through traffic or MRT. I still do the rosary, sometimes the Rosary of Mary, or the ancient Jesus prayer. Lord of mercy, Lord of mercy, Lord of mercy. That's one of my prayer practices.
Okay. And if you're in 3 hours traffic, that's a lot.
A lot of prayers.
There's a lot of prayers.
Which the Philippines need.
Yeah.
So I was raised Catholic, and we were really used to these traditions, like Mass every Sunday and so on. I did not know how to pray properly noon, and I would just mouth the words. But then later on, I started to realize that the shortest prayer is sometimes the best prayer. So the way I've been praying recently has just been Bahala ka na Lord. Bahala ka na Lord. And it's this attitude, I think, of playful trust in the divine, and playful trust that things will be fine. I've realized across my life, and I think this is more of the personal experience, that for me at least, my experience of God and the divine is very, parang ang hilig niya mag-joke. So it's always about jokes. And it's always just a game, but never at my expense. Never na parang I'm laughing at you, but it's always like, di ba sabi ko sa'yo, ganito? And there's always that voice na parang, oh nga, no, tama ka. Oh, why did I do this and that? Na parang, and it's never this embodied specific image. It's always that inner, secret, quiet voice. Na tinatawag din ng mga local music, they call it santong boses. Santong boses. And this is also a tradition across folk religion, that there's this voice that you listen to, that you have to listen to. And for me, it's a playful figure. That's why I've stopped actually telling God na parang, God, gusto ko ganto, ganto, ganto. I just say, bahala ka na, Lord. Ikaw na.
Thank you.
If I might add,
Yeah, please.
so every August, I do a personal retreat. Following what, I use this practice of, what was this writer? The God conversation, in conversation with God. Another Western. Writing a letter to yourself as if God is writing to you. So, and it's, I don't know, try it. It's the things you will discover.
Silke?
So for more than 10 years, I have a meditation practice that I do. So every morning, before I do anything else, I would sit in stillness for between 10 to 20 minutes. Depends on what time I wake up. And but that has been my routine for many years now. And following that, in the last few years, I started going to a Carmelite monastery close to Berlin twice a year, actually also to sit in stillness. So between 3 or 5 days, I would just join the prayers, pray with them, and then basically sit in stillness, not look at my phone, and also not read anything, so just really, stillness. Yeah.
Does anyone has
But
questions?
also, wait, sorry, I need to add this.
Okay, sure.
So this form of stillness that I also, so it became a habit also. Like I'm craving that, I need it, and you would also see that in my art. So all the mirrors you see here, they're hand engraved by me. So, and that you can probably tell, it's like in hours of work. I would sit there and engrave it, and you have to do it really slowly, because if you do it too fast, it will crack. And that also puts me into stillness. And so if I think about what I'm going to eat later, or like what plans for tomorrow, I cannot do that. So my art practice is also my spiritual practice. As what you may witness today, I also kind of blur the lines between what is art and what is actually spiritual practice, because for me there is no boundary in that. It's really my spiritual practice.
Thank you. Yeah. So yes, it's now time to actually open it up for a few questions only. We don't have too much time. Does anyone have questions you'd like to pose at back?
So I would say yes, like, so she wouldn't be super strict religious, but there is a Filipino Catholic community that has a Sunday service in Hamburg. So we would join the service every now and then, and I'm very much influenced by my mom, but she wouldn't be too strict about it. I'm Christian. I believe in God, and I'm Christian. And Open Table for me is not just a Lutheran church, but I very much support and follow the teachings and progressive theology they're preaching. So I cannot really answer your question, because I just see myself as Christian.
Maybe Father Joseph, you did say this is, I recognize all baptisms.
Yes.
So maybe just to clarify what Wilma's point, is it a new baptism or it's really
No.
Okay.
So we don't rebaptize. We recognize, as long as the baptism of the baptism that was received formerly is Trinitarian, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. We recognize that. So we never rebaptize. We also do not convert. So it doesn't mean that we did the renewal of baptism, automatically she becomes a member of our church or part of our community.
Okay. Thank you. We have one or two more questions.
There's a cassette recording of me from the 90s when I was 3 or 4 years old. And my mother, and she was really a rebel back then, wanting me to learn Tagalog in Germany, because the people in the kindergarten, they said, no, that will confuse her mind. She was like, my child has to learn my language and my roots. So she started with forcing me to learn Bakit by heart. So there's a recording of me singing this when I was 3 or 4. And so this is my first solo exhibition in the Philippines, and that was my first song learning Tagalog. And somehow I felt like yeah, I'm honoring my mother and giving this exhibition the title of the song she wanted me to sing when I was younger. Yeah, but also Bakit pa now. If you know the song, yeah, it's a love song or a heartbreak song, but having it sung by a choir, for me at least, it really feels like it's also, yeah, it could be some sort of speaking to God in a really dark moment maybe, and still having hope. So that's why I chose this song.
Of course. Not, we look at the lyrics, can this be interpreted as what, if you, because many love songs can be reimagined and interpreted as either Jesus or God singing it to you, like to make you feel my love. We reimagine it as God telling someone or us, I want to make you feel my love. And so we look at that and see if it can be reimagined in a religious context. Even the religious songs that we use, Catholic songs, Hillsong, Don Moen song, not all Christian songs we use because there are certain theologies that we do not subscribe to. If it is like very hyper-individualistic kind of spirituality, we don't. We try to veer away also with heavy atonement kind of theology, where atonement theology means that God is against sin, and the penalty of sin is death. And to satisfy God's desire for death, He will sacrifice His own Son. So that's atonement theology. But if you really think about it, it doesn't make sense. It makes God kind of someone who kills His own Son to satisfy what, So we veer away in that kind of theology, even from Christian songs.
The way that I see it is that mysticism, just defining the term, is really just seeing yourself as part of something, as a larger whole. And I think what we recognize here is that even though things seem separate, you need that contrast to recognize yourself also. So you need that to affirm yourself. So even though there's this hyper-individualist distinction between things, categorizing things into different, supposedly mutually exclusive things, all of these things are necessary to recognize each other. And we see this in our experience of kapwa, where even the word itself implies that it's shared. Kapuwang, sharing in the space. And we see this in a lot of Filipino folk philosophy, ethno-philosophies also. In the Visayas, there's that concept of kahimtang, which is the condition that you are in a space. So, and even in Western psychology, we have Gestalt psychology, where it's the field and the person, the figure and the background that's part of a larger whole. Ecological systems, all of these. So what I'm saying in general is that the way forward, to answer your question, the way forward is to recognize that despite the differences, we're part of a shared humanity. And I think I keep echoing this, but I'll refer to what Father Albert Alejo said, where on the surface, islands seem separate, but if you dive deep into the waters, they're all connected underneath. And this is the theme of Kapwa, and archipelagic thinking also. And it just takes a little bit of imagination to think of archipelago as the whole planet, and not just a geopolitical space.
So, does anyone else want to answer?
So my master thesis was not just about meditation research, but also about Abrahamic religions. So I was, because they haven't been meditative practices within Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, haven't been as studied as much as Eastern philosophies. So what I found there is that mystics would have the same experiences, and then I would draw lines. Okay, that would lead to today's also progressive theologies, which would, at least for me, mean I'm choosing my belief not because I think it's the only truth, but it's for me a door to a bigger thing. But I chose this tradition, how I would express my spirituality, but the grace of God is everywhere and has, like, everybody can access it. So that's how I would say mysticism is something to look at when looking into the future of interreligious dialogue as well.
Thomas Merton in Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist Thich Nhat Hanh, sees the inseparability of contemplation, mysticism, with justice work, activism. So going to what Prof said of interconnectedness, yes, we are all interconnected, yes, we are all one. And therefore, that should lead us to recognize the need for justice. Justice does not mean to say kill, kill, kill. It doesn't even mean to say kill the one who's killing. You know. But it's a recognition of we have to rebalance again the world and recognize equality, justice, meaning if we really see the oneness of creation, despite the differences, then we should commit and actively work to recognize the lives and dignity of each and every person and all of creation. I guess that's what Merton and other mystics would, even Father Richard Rohr would say. Mysticism is not in itself like a feel-good thing. Sometimes it calls us to difficult struggles for justice.
So, just going to the monastery and just hiding from the world and being in my silence, and I mean, I think really that's not what I should do, even though I enjoy it a lot. It's really, and I also think there is so much information and so much social media, like we're exposed to every day. But if you're really present and really looking at whatever we're engaged with carefully and in the presence, then it doesn't really, how do you say this? Distract you. So I can look at even readings that might be opposite of my political opinion, but looking at it like really in a present way and not get carried away by distraction or anger or whatsoever. So also, I think my spiritual practice has to be based in the now and the every day. So, yeah.
I think it's more about participation in the world also. Existence is one thing. We say na madaling maging tao, pero mahirap magpakatao, which implies that being a person is not just about existing as a person, but as actually participating in the world as a person, participating with nature as a person. And this is how we express ourselves. And the important concept also in across the archipelago, we see the concept of loob, the concept of buot in the Visayas, and again, nakem in the Ilocano. There's that inner self that's expressed outwards. And when our inner self is whole, when we feel that we are sure about ourselves, we say, buo ang loob ko. But also in that fullness of self, we recognize the will of the Creator, ang loob ng may kapal. So it's that connection of the inner and outer that is part of that participation also.
You mentioned about capitalism. The thing about, there are markers, there are symptoms. You know, if it is a way to escape, if it is a way to it becomes a way as a continuous escape or coping using consuming certain things, listening to certain music. When it becomes nothing more than consumption because it is a way to escape, to be distracted, as you say, then that's a symptom of, at least in my opinion, my interpretation, as not really mystical or being godly or being spiritual. But when a particular song, whether this is Christian or even Christian, if you use religion as an escape, if it becomes an escape, an excuse, that's what many Christians don't realize, that they're actually using religion abusively or addictively. Then it's not mystical, contemplative, it's not, But if it is something like what Prof. Carl is saying, it's wholeness, it brings you healing, it brings you to be more aware of our world or the other person. If you're not agitated on certain things you have to be agitated. Then, because there's really no way for us to escape, again, our capitalist world unless you become a monk and go in a cave, in a mountain. So we live in this world. Try to find the symptoms or the benefits of certain things, even in a capitalist, individualistic.
Thank you. Thank you to the panel. Yeah, lovely. Bakit pa the exhibition will still be running for until March 28th, so I invite everyone. The Edoweird Gallery is still open at Tuesday to Saturday. So I would like to invite you, because this is not the normal setup of this exhibition. So it was made for today's event, but it's much more darker and somber, and it invites contemplation. It really is. The design was exhibited really for that. I'd like to also say that Carl Cervantes' zines are outside, and I highly encourage everyone to take a look and purchase, if not one, all. Yeah, and MCC Open Table. So if we went, where is it?
So we're in Annapolis, Wilshire building, along Annapolis Street. It's just across the famous Chinese restaurant, Choi Garden. 16th floor. The 16th floor.
And when are the services?
Every Sunday, 4 p.m. We are also live stream, same time, Facebook.
Thank you. Yeah, that's it. I guess I just wanted to say that I think my own personal belief, I'm the moderator, don't really say anything. But I'm the curator of this exhibit, and Silke's the artist. I'm a doubter, she has faith. But I think most religions really are about observance and practice rather than belief. And in making this exhibition, it was really an act of devotion on everyone involved. Thank you.